September 11th, 2001 was a typical normal day working in the Pentagon. I was a public relations, public affairs officer. So for the U.S. Army, public affairs is similar to public relations, communications, marketing that you would have in a company or any other organization. I was an Army captain at the time. I had been serving in the military probably a little over 10, 11 years. My workday, most people probably started at about 6 a.m. I worked for Brigadier General William Howman, who was an executive officer, a senior general in what was now the Army G1 in the Pentagon. As part of the Army headquarters staff is a Deputy Chief of Staff of Personnel, so they oversee personnel readiness, recruiting, retention for the U.S. Army. And so that morning was typical. I was in the office at 6 o'clock before my boss. Pulled up news reports, the daily news reports as a public affairs officer does, checked the media, and then I also started to work on some other things we were working. We had a big meeting that was coming up later in the week. It's called a General Officer Steering Committee, so we were preparing for that. It was a huge meeting that happened, I think it was every quarter, and so I was preparing the read-ahead packets that I needed to pass around to senior officials in the Pentagon that day. And then I think it was around 8 or so, a little bit after 8, when for some reason I just decided to check the news reports. I just went on. I normally do when I first get in. I did that, and it was pretty regular type reports on issues relating to military, Department of Defense. That's when I saw the first information about the plane attack. The plane crashed into Tower 1 in New York. At the time, we were not aware if it was just an accident, whether just plane veered off course, it was some pilot error or something like that, because it was just one plane. And that's what most people are thinking. Your immediate assumption isn't to jump to, oh, it's a terrorist attack, we're being attacked, and people are going to crash airplanes into buildings on purpose. So we continue to do our work, but we also know, because in the Pentagon you have operations centers, you have the military operations center, you have the Army operations center, you have large public affairs communications offices on the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all the military branches staff. So they're all monitoring it. They're working it, and information to get to you when they're able to figure out what's going on too. So I continue to do my work, and I believe it was almost close to 9 or a little bit after 9, because we saw that a second plane had hit Tower 2, World Trade Center Tower 2, I believe, in New York City. And that's when we started there's more going on. And there's something really happening, and this is deliberate. We started to recognize this is going to be a long day, whatever is happening. As the Pentagon, it's the headquarters for our Department of Defense. So if anything is happening, attack of our country, or even for instance, a war zone or battle or anything that's happening, our operations will continue, because that's what we do right there in the Pentagon. And so I think, at that time I let my boss know that I was going to head out and deliver some read-ahead packets for that big meeting that was happening later in the week. And so I did talk to a few coworkers as I was going through, and I stopped by my senior boss's office to drop off one of the read-aheads. That was Lieutenant General Timothy Maud's front office, to drop off the read-ahead material. So I talked to General Maud's secretary, Deborah Ramsor, and I saw General Maud leave. I figured he was probably leaving to go get some more information on what was happening. So after that, after I delivered the package there to his front office, I decided, I used to work previous to this job I worked on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I was a public affairs officer there on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and I knew they had an operations center, and they would probably have more intel, more information right away. So I thought, well, let me go over there. That's on the other side of the Pentagon. So I left and headed that way to see if I can get more information to maybe bring back to my immediate boss, Brigadier General Howman, or just to find out what was going on, really. And I think took me maybe 4 minutes to get to the other side. And as soon as I walked through the door, that's when some folks came running in. I was on the Joint Chiefs of Staff side in the Public Affairs office. They came running in saying a plane had hit the building, hit our building. I left General Maud's front office to head over to the Joint Chiefs of Staff to continue to deliver my packages that I needed to for the meeting, but also to find out what was going on. So I'd left. If I had stayed there 4 more minutes, I wouldn't be here today. And that's just how close that was. And your immediate reaction, it's just like anything. It's just like what maybe police officers or firefighters would say. You fall to your training. That's what's so important. And our training was, you get back to where your area is, get to your people, make sure they get out, they get safe, and find out what else you need to do, what other operations we need to do. At the time, I wasn't aware that it hit the exact spot I was standing in just 4 minutes prior. After the plane hit the building, I raced back to my office area to try to help my folks and find out what was going on. For some reason, I took the long way back, because you kind of go around Pentagon. I could have taken the short way. I don't know why I didn't. I just ran the long way around. Had I taken the shorter way, I would have run right into the wall of flames, because it would have taken me right that way. When I got back to my office area, Brigadier General Heilman and Colonel Arnold Smith were both there. They're supervisors and my immediate boss, and they're just telling everyone, get your stuff and get out of the Pentagon. And you can start hearing that there were security officers, Pentagon security officers, police officers, telling everyone to leave the building and kind of sending people out directions. So we kind of all started leaving the building, making sure everyone was getting out of the area. So I headed home. 10 minutes away, I turned on the news. I'm trying to reach people on the phone. I actually did have a cell phone even then, but the signal busy. The home phone I had couldn't make any calls out. So of course, turn on the news, and then you see the visuals of the Pentagon, the place where you were just at, the place you worked for a few years, and you're in shock. You can't believe this is happening. And then of course the fourth plane that crashed in Pennsylvania, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing the World Trade Center towers falling. And you're just, part of it, your instinct is, I want to get back. I want to get back to the Pentagon. I want to get back to work. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm serving my country. But we couldn't. There was nowhere to. At that time, they closed off all the bridges, leading into and out of Virginia and the D.C. area. So there was nowhere you could go. It was just traffic and things were just closed off. So I just stayed there and waited. Later that day, General Heilman did reach me. I reached him. We talked on the phone, and that's when I was talking to him, and I was asking, can we go back in? He said they weren't letting anyone near the Pentagon. I asked him about General Ahmad, because I know I had just saw him, and he told me that's the area that the plane went into. And so I still it still didn't register that those people that I talked to could be gone. I did ask, have you seen him? And they said, no, it's been a couple hours. We have not seen General Ahmad. It's what General Heilman was telling me. I haven't seen him or heard anything. And the area is full of flames, smoke. Because I think the Pentagon burned for that area for a couple of days before they could put everything out. It was a tough time for the country. Yeah. Well, we came together as a country, and that was one thing that was a positive benefit after we came together as a country. And that's something I hope happens with remembering for 9/11 this year, that people begin to look at that we are all the same. We have the shared values and, as Americans, and think about that. But it's always there. Even on my desk, I keep a rock. That we had from the Pentagon. Each person has a number on it, and it was part of the Pentagon. And so that kind of helps me remind me of my friends and coworkers and colleagues and boss. Great people. One of the things why I decided a few years ago on the 10th anniversary to start to talk about it a little bit, when I wrote the article about it. And then last year I talked a little bit, and then this year I decided it would be good to express more. I wanted people to understand the people that I worked with. Professionals, good people. It was probably one of the best environments I worked in during my time in the military. Made a lot of friends, a lot of mentors, but I wanted people to understand the sacrifices. And it wasn't just military people. There were Department of Defense, Army headquarters, Navy, civilian employees. And actually more civilian employees died that day than military service members. So, but I wanted people to not forget the sacrifices, to also not become complacent on valuing day-to-day life. The importance of working together in teams and doing your best. I did continue to serve another 10, 11 years after that. But after retiring from the Army, I'm now working at the UTA School of Social Work. And part of, I think that being with social workers and working and helping train and educate the next generation of social workers is actually quite fitting in honoring of my colleagues and co-workers who died that day. One, because military social workers helped, of course, before, but after the incident, many years helping with counseling and therapy and getting us the right resources, working with family members. I can remember many social workers coming by every couple of days, checking in the office, hey, how you're doing, giving us pamphlets, talking. I know many people took advantage of that service after the days, weeks, and months, and even years after 9/11. There are people that experience a lot of different things. Like I said, for even me, you have survivor's guilt. You later have anxiety sometimes. There are some people, dealing with depression or other issues, but those social workers were there. So it's kind of fitting that I am now working in the School of Social Work for University of Texas at Arlington. As a military veteran and an Army retiree, it's probably one of the best post-retirement, Army retirement jobs to have. It's kind of the best of both worlds in some ways, because you have that military background, you're on a campus at a university, #1 veteran friendliness. It's School of Social Work, #1 veteran friendliness School of Social Work in the country, in the state of Texas. Giving back, you see military veterans, I can work with them every day. I have meetings with them, I have students to make sure that they can get enrolled, make sure they can get tutoring, get the right services that they need. And then also knowing, working in the School of Social Work, that these military students, military veterans, are going to go back out and continue to serve. So it's a good way of, after serving your country in uniform, to still be able to serve your country in a different way by helping produce great social work students and also helping military and veterans here at UTA. I would just continue to always remind all that honor the sacrifices of those who served, honor the family members of those who served, remembering that look at each day as a good day. You have coworkers, get to know your coworkers, get to know your colleagues. You never know what's coming next. So it allowed me to gain a better appreciation of that, and also continue to remember those who I lost that day, and the family members. That's I think about. I look back now at pictures, and I read about some of my coworkers that died that day, like Major Malam and Major Patterson and Lieutenant Colonel Karen Wagner. And at that time they had some of them had young kids, like Ron Malam. I think he had 2 kids, a daughter and a son. And you think about now, 15, 16, 17 years later, without their father, and without brothers and sisters. And I do think about that, because that pain that stays there, and it changes family structure and what they went through. And then I just, thankful that I'm able here to at least remember them, and then also to teach and help the next generation of social workers that'll go out and help military and help communities and continue to serve in a different capacity. So it's great.